We ultimately made the decision that I was going to stay home with the kids. And it was a wonderful decision. I was happy to be in the role, proud to be in the role, got a lot of meaning out of it. Until I started not to and started to feel like I forget who I am. What do I even like to do anymore? Like I have 10 minutes. I seriously don't know what to do. Do I like books? I don't know if I like books. Do I like to cook? I don't know. I just had lost myself. I totally lost myself after giving.
Welcome to the Marriage and Motherhood Podcast. I'm your host, Michelle Perda. As a marriage coach who's married with 3 kids, I know how easy it is for marriage to take a back seat. But unlike your parents' marriage, your marriage can feel good while raising kids and doesn't have to feel hard. It can look like having each other's backs, even flirting and looking forward to spending time with each other. And I'm here to help you. So join me here each week as we dive into what it takes for your marriage to become something you enjoy again, from how to handle conflict better and bringing that spark back into your relationship. If you're ready for your marriage to feel good again, this podcast is for you. Let's dive in. Hello. Welcome back to another episode of the Marriage and Motherhood Podcast. I am so excited for this week's guest. She is going to be talking about something that we experience as mothers. Maybe once, maybe twice, maybe with every child that we have. And that is going on autopilot. I know I have personally experienced this probably about twice now. A third time around, I kind of figured it out, but wow, I completely lost who I was. I shouldn't say lost. I forgot who I was. And dealing with postpartum stuff, like, who knew that I would forget how to have fun? Who knew I would forget what made me me? Because I was just so laser focused on raising my kids. Having that tunnel vision is something we can all relate to, I'm sure. And this is something that we need to bring more awareness around. So I'm so excited to talk about this topic with Kari because, yes, this is very common, but also that doesn't mean that that needs to be our reality for as long as it is for a lot of us, okay? So we're going to be talking about what it means to be living from our essence. And so without further ado, I want to introduce to you Kari Cravalho. She is a professional certified coach who helps high-achieving mothers thrive, not survive, and write their own chapter featuring motherhood, career, and everything in between. Kari offers moms a safe space to show up and explore what they really want and need without feeling guilty. A place that's not your partner or HR. Just kind of funny because I used to be HR, so I know what that means. Kari uses personalized support and powerful questions to help her clients gain awareness of their patterns, limiting beliefs, and other blocks that they are putting in their way. She then supports her clients in expanding their view of what is possible and stands for their success by offering practices and accountability. Thank you so much for being here, Kari.
Yeah, thank you, Michelle. That was a lovely intro, and I just love all the work you're doing. So thank you for having me be a part of it in this small way.
Oh my gosh. Yes, I'm so excited to talk about this and dive into it because this is so needed. This is a conversation that needs to be had more often, and I can't wait to dive in. But before we do that, let's reveal a little bit more about Kari. Where do you live and how old are your kids?
Yeah, so I live outside of Seattle, Washington, in a town called Sammamish. I've got 2 kids, ages 9, that's 3rd grade, and 7, 1st grade. And so we're in Washington State, but I'm from Massachusetts. My husband's from California, and talk about change. We made our way up here 10 years ago and have just stayed here and just really kind of just made it our home. No family here, but we've just kind of settled and said, okay, this is going to be a neutral space for our family.
I love that. We did a Pacific Northwest road trip this summer. I'm from California, for those who are new to the show. Am in the Bay Area, and I love Seattle. I don't know that I can live somewhere that rains so much, but I absolutely love that area. It is so nice, and the food is great. We even drove onto the ferry to go to Bridge Island. That was cool. They have a really cool kids play place that's walking distance from the port. Oh my gosh, it was incredible. So yeah, I'm going to be visiting there a lot more often. And plus, if you love seafood, that is the place to be.
seafood and water and trees
Yeah,
and
everything.
mountains.
Yes, yes, yes. And you get to go to Mount Rainier, which is super close
Mhm.
by. That place is so beautiful.
Mhm.
Okay. What inspired you to become a professional coach? Tell us, like, how did you get to this place where you're like, this is what I'm meant to do? This is what I'm passionate about.
Yeah, I love sharing this story. And I feel like with a lot of coaches, my journey is similar in the sense of I'm a coach now because I want to make it easier on people following in my footsteps because it was really, really hard for me a while ago. So, how I got to be a coach is I started my career in human resources and I always just love collaborating with people, talking to my team, like having those one-on-one discussions with my staff where of course we would review projects, deadlines, etc. But I just like talking to them as humans and just like understanding their goals and their aspirations and just really standing for whatever they needed to be successful. And so my most recent job in human resources was at a big tech company, Adobe, in the Bay Area. So not far from where you live. And my most recent job there was as the chief of staff for the head of people and places at the time. And for me, that was like an incredible opportunity, like huge leadership visibility, like lots of expectations on me. I was leading a team. A lot of things were going right. A lot of things were lining up with my career. Then I got pregnant and we had our first child, Evelyn. And I remember this time so well because on the one hand, I was on this HR leadership track. And then on the other hand, I had always had this like secret dream that not many people knew of, the secret dream to be a stay-at-home parent. And I remember feeling so like it was a lot of shame. It was a lot of confusion of my feelings because I think a lot of people expected me to continue on in HR. And then I had this other dream. It's like, wait, should I tell people about this? Should I not? And I just felt really lonely because I had my husband to talk to, and that's basically it. And ironically, I was in HR, but it was difficult to talk about this with HR. So we ultimately made the decision that I was going to stay home with the kids. And it was a wonderful decision. So glad I did. It was me just fulfilling this dream. And it served us well because honestly, I became like CEO of the household, COO, everything. We moved like 3 times, lived abroad. My children had a lot of speech appointments. So, hey, I was like happy to be in the role, proud to be in the role, got a lot of meaning out of it until I started not to and started to feel, like you said in the intro, like I forget who I am. What do I even like to do anymore? Like I have 10 minutes. I seriously don't know what to do. Do I like books? I don't know if I like books. Do I like to cook? I don't know. Just had lost myself. Had totally lost myself after giving, giving, giving. And so I actually then came across through a connection, a coach for moms. And I remember feeling, oh my gosh, this exists. Like there's actually a coach out there that helps moms. And, I chatted with my husband about it and we agreed like, okay, this is going to be good for you, Kari. Like you need this. Cause he was noticing too, like when mommy's not at her best, things in the family are a little bit rocky. So I invested in coaching for myself. And I just remember meeting with this woman. Her name was Kristen. Shout out to Kristen if you're listening, but she was so, so wonderful in the sense that she just held space for me, space just for me. And she asked me questions that I had never dared ask myself before. She challenged me to really go beyond my current thinking. And it allowed me to think, okay, I want to go back into my career and I want to still be flexible and have mom duties. Like I kind of want to have it all. And so it led me to actually launching my own coaching business and creating it all for myself. So that's what I've done. I've created my own coaching practice, as you shared, focused on high achieving working moms. And I still am the one who picks the kids up from the bus stop and supports them in the morning. So I just have learned firsthand the power of coaching. And now I want to give that to other people and create that sanctuary or safe place.
I feel like coaching is something that everybody could use, just like how therapist is something that everybody could use. Coaching is different though, right?
Mm.
There's a lot of similarities, but it is so great to have someone who is unbiased.
Mm.
They don't know you for your past. They only know you for what you desire and help you see what the gaps are to help you get there, right? They're not thinking like, well, this is how I see you, so you can't go for that. Or,
Yes.
anything that really puts a stop to you going for what you want. And it's such a nice place to be able to have someone who can hold that space. Like, I really don't feel like I've ever had that until I worked with a coach. And it is such an honor to be able to do that for my clients, which I'm sure, Kari, you feel the same way, where you're like, this is your moment of self-care. This is your moment where you don't have to care about anyone else's feelings. You can just think about yourself and what you want and be unapologetic about it.
Oh, love that. Yeah. And I don't know about you, but like I find sometimes with the people who sign up for coaching, like just signing up is already like a huge step. It's like they've
Totally.
already won because they're like, I'm going to do this for myself.
Yes.
And I so resonate with what you were saying about like having the coach be neutral and like out of the stuff because like we have our girlfriends to like talk about all the stuff, right? We have
Mm-hmm.
like our partner to talk about a whole bunch of stuff too. But sometimes it helps to have someone who just like is not close to it and can actually just say what they see from afar. And
Yes.
one of the favorite things I say in my sessions is, I might make an observation or say
Yep.
like, may I share kind of what I'm noticing here? And then I say, I don't have to be right about this because ultimately it's you and your life, but I just want to say what I see here. And then it's like putting something out there that they can take or leave. And it's just so beautiful to see how people can fill these gaps and generate these new awarenesses on their own. And I know, yeah, seeing the light bulbs in the clients is just incredible.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I love it. I love it. Okay. So speaking of being a mirror for people, it is so, so easy for moms to unintentionally, unconsciously end up going into autopilot and forgetting who they are and what makes them and what lights them up. So I know you talk a lot about living from your essence. Can you share more about what is essence and why it's important to live from your essence and what it looks like compared to living from your more autopilot ways, your automatic ways of being?
Yeah, absolutely. Essence is this like kind of big flowery word. And what I like to think of it more concretely is your essence is your highest and best qualities. Like when you are doing and being your best, you are showing up from your essence. And it's so different than being on autopilot because it sometimes takes some intentionality to actually say, okay, I'm going to approach a situation coming from my highest and best qualities. And we have just gotten so accustomed, moms and just everybody in general, is we have these automatic ways of being. And we subconsciously act this way because there's fears underneath us, right? Like we're trying to protect something. So we just have learned to like show up in a certain way, right? Like it could be as simple as math might not be like one of your strengths, or you feel like, okay, I'm really bad at math. Okay. So because you have that fear, which likely is a limiting belief to begin with, but because you have that fear, you just have become accustomed to showing up at any sort of like financial meeting with a certain space and a certain aura and a way of being. And not to say that's bad or anything, it's just the way it's been. Just like going to a cocktail party. If you go to a cocktail party where you're going to know every single person at the party, you're going to show up in a certain way. If you go to a cocktail party where you're not going to know a soul, you're also going to show up in a certain way. So this is what I call like our automatic ways of being. And I always like to say to people, there's nothing wrong with this. In fact, it's gotten us places. We have gotten far in life by doing this. And there's definitely a time and place for it. My invitation to people is just to consider that in the spirit of coaching and possibility, you can make it different and you can decide how to make it so moving forward. And so why not try to live from more of these highest and best qualities where it just feels better yourself? Like forget about the impact on others, which is clearly there is impact, but just how does it feel for yourself to be living like just more authentically and from that place?
Absolutely. I think that once I uncovered this about myself, it felt like I went from sitting in a dark room to having the window open and seeing the sunlight come in, right? Really knowing what I do that creates this instant brightness in my life to help me feel like life is light. to have that like zest, right? Like that
Mhm.
excitement for life instead of just
Mhm.
waking up and it's like, here we go
Yeah.
again,
Mhm.
right? More of the same shit again and
Mhm.
again. And it's like, that's not what it means to be living,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
And it's so easy to get to that place as soon as you have kids. It's
Mhm.
like you're just so focused on the responsibilities and getting things
Mhm.
done, checking things off your list, and then living up to the standard that someone else defined
Mhm.
instead of living life for you, which is your essence, right? Like being true to yourself, knowing what your North Star is, not
Mhm.
looking at what your friend Jennifer's North Star is and being
Mhm.
like, okay, let me go follow that,
Mhm.
but really being true to yourself.
It's such an incredible shift, and it's like the energy that you can bring is so different. I like to say sometimes you can be doing the exact same thing, but you could be coming from your survival or automatic, or you could be coming from your essence. And it's like the actions are the same, but it's just like your intention behind it. And so just like noticing once you know your essence, and I have a way I work with my clients where we actually ask other people to chime in because we're so good at identifying all of our faults and our struggles and our challenges and all that. But we don't necessarily always know like how we're showing up when we're in our best self as others see it. So yeah, it's super fascinating. And I personally, on my journey, learned myself, how do I live more from my essence versus survival? And when you said like that, oh, wake up and here we go again, I struggled years ago with that martyr superwoman
Mm-hmm.
type automatic way of being, kind of like that space of, okay, I'm the one who has to do all this negative martyrdom, but then also feeling like on top of the world when I'm the one who can get it all done. And I look how fast I did it and look how planful it is.
Mm-hmm.
And that was kind of my automatic way of being. And once I noticed that, it just felt like really icky. And I'm like, hey, you know what? I could still be getting things organized and keeping everything running, keep the train running. But if I'm doing it coming from a different place, like I don't feel so icky about it.
I think it does make a huge difference when you have that mindset shift or expanded perception of yourself. And, fun fact, I actually did that exercise that you said about
Mm.
asking friends when I was freshly, how old was my son? So that my second son, who's my first biological son, he was like an infant or maybe like just newly toddler status. And I was like, there has to be something more than me being a stay at home mom. Like, I am not cut out for that. It is not a goal of mine to be a stay at home mom. I love to be like a work from home mom who does some of the mom stuff, but also have my own thing, hence my own coaching business,
Yeah.
right? But I was so lost with like, what do I do? What do I want? Like, who am I? I went through all those questions and I asked some friends, like, what am I good at? When you think of me, what do you think about? What are the characteristics that you think are my strengths or my gifts? And they said, like, I don't even remember the exact words they said, but I was like, oh,
Mhm.
okay. Like, it was so refreshing to hear about me without the confines that I put myself in.
Absolutely. I'm curious, do you remember being ever like surprised by what you heard?
I think I was surprised by some, but what I remember most was feeling really validated for things
Mm.
that I thought that anyone could do. And it didn't make me special that I could do this, but rather like, no, you are actually really good at this. And this is not normal. And, I downplayed a lot of my gifts. And it really was kind of, yeah, validating, but also like, really? Like shocking. Like,
Mm. Mhm.
that's something you think that I'm good at? Okay,
Mm.
So I had a moment of needing to own it too.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because sometimes we don't necessarily see our brilliance and we don't see our
Mm-hmm.
gifts and we don't see like the impact that we are having, yet others can see it. And
Totally.
yeah, I had that similar experience where like one of my essence words that my coach gave me a while back was energy. It's one of my
I see
words.
that in you.
And I'm actually kind of like an introvert. Like, give me a quiet house for 8 hours, I'll be happy. I like my quiet, I like my peace. But what I came to realize is that I kind of just had to learn this. And now I see it as like a real gift and I can lean into it. But it's like this certain energy that I give off, like when I'm talking to people, and that people pick up on energy from me. And so it was less about like me being super energetic and more just around like, how do I create a space of energy, like in the space between us?
Yes.
Um, and so, yeah, that's where like getting outside of yourself and asking others is super interesting.
Yeah. So, what have you noticed different about yourself ever since discovering your essence? I think you mentioned when we were talking before we hit record that you have 5 essence words. So, can you
Mm.
share with us what those 5 are and what it has done for your life to know your essence words?
Yeah, absolutely. So, my 5 words, and I'll actually I'll show you here. I keep it by my desk all the time. And so, my 5 words are sage, radiance, connection, energy, and source.
Mm.
And when I received these words, I remember being like, yep, yep, yep. Energy, I was kind of like, huh, I had to think a little bit more about that. Source, I didn't quite understand quite right away. But I have since really created like some meaning out of source for me. Like I am a source for getting things done for myself and for my family, but people also use me as a source for support and help. But how I use these is as simple as starting to write an email to someone where maybe it's a challenging topic. You have to write an email, or let's say a phone call. Like you have to pick up the phone and talk to someone about it, like a challenging topic. Or maybe you even have to have a hard conversation with a client about something or something with your partner. Just stopping and saying, okay, Kari, how can you bring connection to this conversation? Right. And so just thinking, okay, how can I bring connection? Immediately, it's like, okay, this is not about me. This is about our situation and our partnership. And how can we make this work? Like, how can I bring more sense of connection? That's one way it comes up. Another way I use it is certainly with my children quite often because, and this is where with the kids, it is so useful because I find myself noticing when I'm not coming from my essence, right? And like, this is an example I often give. It's like breakfast in the morning is sometimes really chaotic. It's like, eat your breakfast. We gotta go. We gotta leave in 10 minutes and, get your backpack and da da da. Like, I sometimes, admittedly, like I'm human, like I can approach that situation kind of scattered and very like stressed and all over the place and trying to do a million things. And like the nervous energy for me, it's a nervous energy for the kids. And so, I can see that now. So I can ask myself, Kari, what would it be if you were able to come from your essence in this case? Like, what if, again, connection is a good one or source? Like, how could I just be kind of more of a source for the children in the morning? And it's simple, yet it's so profound, right? How you can have this just simple way to look at your 5 words and then be able to shift. And the thing I love it is like in the moment, you can do it like right away with anything.
This really reminds me of how important it is to be intentional and having that visual. So, like, if you're listening to this in the video, she showed me that she printed her words. But this can be applied to literally every area of your life. So much of my approach to helping you with your marriage and your partnership, your communication, yourself, is about that moment of pause where you catch yourself being human, right? Because we all do that. We are that, right? We're human. And you have that moment of pause and you slow things down and you check in with yourself. Is this the way I want to be? Is this going to get me where I want to be? And just asking those simple questions, it's kind of like realigning yourself and noticing, oh, did I get off track? Okay, what track do I want to be on right now? So when you give yourself these, whether it's essence words or vision that you have for yourself and who you want to be, when you pause and be intentional, you give yourself choice. Yeah. And I think that's what's most important about what we're talking about here is that, yes, we can be human and go into autopilot ways. That is literally how our brains are set up to be automatic. Because then if we had to like think every single task through, that would be insane. We don't have that much brain power, which is why we go on autopilot, where we don't even really need to think about, like, let's say you're driving to work. And have you ever had those moments where you're like, I don't remember how I got here, but I know I got in the car and then now I'm here and I'm alive. Like,
yeah. All of it. Or like walking into the room and being like, well, why did I
come in here? Yeah. What was I trying to do here? So there is a time and a place for that. But when it comes to who we are, the life we're living, like the things that actually bring meaning to our lives, like our connections, right? This is where this stuff comes in handy. Discovering what your essence is, discovering what your vision for your life is, and pausing when you notice, oh crap, I am not being that best version of myself right now. Not as a way to like cast judgment or shame, just like, oops. Yeah. You know, literally that's what it is. Like, oops, I bumped into the corner. Like, I don't know if you're like me, but like I often walk into things. I don't know what it is about me. I'm like almost 40 and I still do this, but whatever. It's just an oops. Can you just make a shift right then and there?
Love that. Oh, so you said that so beautifully. Yes. +1 to all of that. I love how you said just like, oops, and like make a shift. And like the oops, the way you said that too, what I loved about that was you're not creating this big, heavy meaning around something that didn't go well or the way you were showing up and didn't like it. You know, that's the thing with any sort of coaching out there is that, you know, the past is the past. Like you can create how it is moving forward. And sometimes when we get so worked up on things or, you know, it's not an oops, it's like, oh my gosh, the world is going to end type of thing. Yeah. It's like, okay, what meaning are you actually giving to this right now? Do you have to give it that much meaning? Or can it just be like you said, just a little oops, pause and move forward? And that's it takes practice. It just takes awareness, noticing, and then the intention and practice.
Totally. That self-compassion is a game changer when it comes to this because, yeah, it is really easy to criticize yourself, especially if you grew up with a parent or both parents heavily criticizing you. Obviously, they weren't meaning to hurt your feelings or whatever, but one of the ways that I love to now think about life is, hey, yeah, we are who we are now because of our past, but we cannot live life through the rearview mirror. We have to just notice like, oh, that's my past coming up. Where am I going though? Can I take control of the wheel again and figure out, okay, what do I need to do to get back into the lane that I want to go into, I get to the destination that I want to go to. So I love this so much. Thank you so much for sharing your essence words. Thank you so much for bringing this topic to light because there are moms out there, and if this is you, who are feeling like they're on the hamster wheel with life, right? Day in, day out, it's more of the same stuff. And what we're trying to invite you to do is to bring more light to your life, right? And I don't mean it to sound like airy-fairy, okay? But this is super helpful for you in all areas of your life. If you feel like life is more of something that's just something to go through, this is definitely an exercise that I encourage you to do. And Kari actually offers a free call to help you discover your essence.
Yeah. It's an opportunity to kind of like pause, reflect on how it's going for you. And trust me, it's going for you the way it's going for most people. And then to have this opportunity to come up with your 5 words. And then you can take those 5 words and do with them however you want. So yeah, please, I'm more than happy to do this.
So how can people connect with you, Kari?
Yeah, so several ways. My website, which is cravahlocoaching.com. I post frequently on Instagram as Facebook. But, you know, the best way to connect with me really is either to reach out for an essence call or even just like a 15-minute coach fitting call.
Go reach out to her. But before we end this amazing conversation, thank you so much, by the way, I love to ask my guests a question so that listeners can get to know you a little bit better. Mm-hmm. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay, so you shared with us your essence words.
Yeah.
So since discovering those qualities about you that you desire to be, how has that impacted what you love to do most for self-care?
What I love to do most for self-care. Yes. Okay. It's really that connection word. So I have realized more so than ever that my life is just uplifted and there's such a positive impact when I am around other people. And I mean, it could be simply being around someone like the Trader Joe's checkout person, right? It doesn't have to be like necessarily a close friend, but tonight I have ladies' night with a couple of girlfriends. And it's like, for me, just like honest, authentic connection. Like there's no stress, no like shoulds or be a certain way. It's just like honest connection. So I really love that. And I think I also have learned what my limits are, right? Because like I can't like be a social butterfly or be super connected for a super long time or with a million people. It's my own authentic way of connecting with people. So that really boosts my self-care for sure.
I love that. I sometimes it depends on the day, but like I'll take the test to see if I'm like extroverted or introverted. I actually feel like I am like both, probably more leaning on extrovert, but like definitely since after having kids, I've become more introverted. I don't know if that's like a common thing that ends up happening, but like I need time to recharge. I don't want to like be out with friends all day.
Yeah. Yeah. I hear you. And there's such a balance, right? There's such a blend because I think my mindset right now today is, I have ladies' night. So I'm feeling like super excited about
Totally.
that. It's been for a while. But I think connection also can be just like connection in quiet or connection with yourself or
With
just
self.
connection. Oh my gosh, connection with a TV show you haven't watched in
Yes.
ages. They have so many free like online tests now. It's kind of cool to kind of take those and see how things shift as you age and evolve.
Yeah. I remember when I was in my 20s and even younger than that, I hated being alone. I was so bored. I wouldn't know what to do with myself. And now I really savor the time that I'm by myself. Anyway, thank you so much for joining this show and sharing all about essence and how moms out there can stop living on autopilot and actually start enjoying their lives in a way that feels good to them. Not Pinterest, not Instagram, not their parents or their friends, but rather just for them. And so if you resonated with what we talked about during this episode, please do yourself a favor, do your family a favor, and go reach out to Kari and see what your essence words are and see how that changes your approach to life and how you can feel different. Because I know it's hard sometimes when you're like, sounds good for you. I don't know that that would work for me. And you truly won't know until you try, right? And I know that's true for me until I work with a coach. I was like, okay, what is this, right? But after I was like, whoa, now I want everybody to experience this. And that's it for this episode. Thank you for listening. Bye, everyone.
Bye. Thank you.
That's it for this episode. If you enjoyed this episode and you'd like to help support the podcast, please subscribe and leave a rating and review. I would so appreciate that. And if you love what I share here, then you're going to love and want to join my free private Facebook community that's also called Marriage and Motherhood. I hope to see and connect with you in there. Otherwise, I'll catch you back here for the next episode. Bye!